Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're thrilled to bring you an action-packed movie experience. Get ready for jaw-dropping action stunts and intense fight scenes that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Let's follow the journey of a fighter who accidentally takes a life in the ring. But when he finds that his opponent's widow is in trouble, he steps up as her champion, facing a series of seemingly impossible fights. Get ready to be amazed by the action and heart-pounding drama of Boyka 4. The movie begins when a man sits in the waiting room of an underground arena in the city of Kyiv in Ukraine. His past sins aggrieve him, and he regrets what he has done in his past life. After all the sins he has committed, he does not think that he has any right to watch, dream and live. But he still dreams. The scene shifts when Boyka fights in an underground arena. The opponent fights back with his entire force. The audience is watching the game to support Boyka. The people in the arena shout Boyka's name to encourage him. They are betting on him, and suddenly, Boyka lifts his leg and hits the opponent boxer's face with full force. The referee comes when the opponent falls to stop Boyka from hitting once more. The other player is unable to rise, and the referee declares Boyka's win. In the maximum security prison in Russia, a few policemen discuss which prisoner is fighting against Koshmar. They already know that anyone coming to fight Koshmar will die. The jail audience, consisting of the prisoner, begins shouting Koshmar's name. Suddenly, they see Koshmar coming with a few policemen. He is no ordinary prisoner. 4 men bring him, holding the chains that tie his whole body while a different chain ties his legs, and a mask covers his face. When they remove his chains and mask, he looks like a living giant, while the man fighting opposite him is just an ordinary fighter. Koshmar gets in the ring, and the opponent fighter punches him a couple of times. With those hits, Koshmar does not even flinch from his location. Then Koshmar attacked the other fighter, and he fell on the floor. Koshmar begins punching on his face and does not stop until the player dies. The police officers watch towards each other like it was what they had already expected out of his fight. Boyka goes to the church to donate the books. He tells his father that he feels good when he does something in the way of God. Father asks him if he still earns through fighting. Boyka shares that it's a gift of God, and he does not want to waste it. But father reminds him that violence can kill the good in humans, so he must leave this path. That evening, his manager comes to Boyka to tell him that he has arranged a fight for him, which is legal. It would be in the city of Budapest, and he would have exposure to the European scouts. Boyka gets so excited to hear that. Before the fight, the announcer tells the audience that the winner will get the chance to fight for the European Championship. At the same time, Boyka hears the announcement and leaves his room. Coming out of the room, his manager asks him questions about his fitness. He gets so annoyed, and he asks him to stop questioning. But his manager stopped him to warn him that the fighter against him was not like others. He wins every fight just like him. But Boyka is so desperate to go to the European tournament. He furiously tells him that it's impossible that anyone would ever stop him from winning this fight. Then Boyka enters the ring, and the audience shouts his name. The other player arrives, and the referee begins the game after formal instructions. Boyka saves himself from the initial attack, but the other fighter keeps attacking aggressively. Then, he tries to throw Boyka down, but Boyka twists his arm and throws him on the floor. Then, he throws the other fighter by kicking his chest. The European scouts watched him and appreciated his ways of fighting. The other fighter dominates for a couple of moments. But Boyka effectively throws him down in a couple of punches on the face. His face gets badly injured, but he gets up again. Boyka punches him harder this time, and when the other player falls, he advises him not to get up. But he gets up again, and Boyka punches his face. This time, the other fighter falls like a chopped tree. Boyka celebrates his win by shouting at the audience. His manager congratulates him and takes him to the dressing room. On the other hand, the doctors give first aid to the badly injured player. The European scouts come into the dressing room and appreciate him. They immediately invite Boyka to Budapest for the upcoming tournament. He happily accepts the offer. The fight in Europe is going to be in just 2 weeks. His manager gives him the money he won from the fight, and then he comes out of the dressing room to go back home. On his way out of the club, he sees the opponent fighter going to the hospital. The man with him tells Boyka that he is seriously injured. He gets so worried and remembers how father told him to stay away from the dangerous path of violence. That night, he could not sleep as he kept thinking about the other fighter. The next day, he goes to the club to ask his manager about the man he fought last night. The manager did not want to tell him initially, but then he says that he died last night. Boyka feels so regretful and wants to know about him. After insisting a lot, the manager gives him the bag he found in his locker. The bag had a letter with a picture of the fighter with his wife. His name was Victor, and he lived in Russia. Boyka asks his manager to arrange a fake passport for him as he wants to go to Russia. The manager warns him that police will arrest him in Russia as Russian police are already searching for him. But he snatches the manager's neck and aggressively tells his decision that he will go to Russia at any cost. On the other hand, Victor's wife, Alma, stands beside the kids at his funeral service. As the funeral service ends, Zurab comes with his men to the church. He takes Alma's side and asks her about the debt. She does not want anyone's help and tells Zurab that she will pay every penny of debt they take. On the other hand, the manager gets the fake passport and advises Boyka to return in time. In addition to that, he advises him to go to Russia through the private Virginia. The army at military checkpoints does not investigate much from the passengers. As the manager advised, he used the private van. The soldier asked him a couple of questions at the checkpoint and gave the passport back. Soon, he entered the city, where he could find Victor's wife, Alma. After keeping his luggage in the hotel, he takes out the letter that he found in Victor's locker. Then he hangs the cross on the wall. Afterwards, he goes to the address written on the letter. Soon, he finds Alma standing beside a little girl. She notices him looking at her. But a few moments later, a car stops. Alma sits with the man in the car and goes away. He asks the gatekeeper if he wants to talk to her. So he gives the address where she works. She works at a private fighting arena. Boyka watches the fight, and his eyes look for Alma in the arena. At the same time, the owner of the club, Zurab, watches the fight, and the girls serve drinks in the club. The fighter wins, and suddenly, Boyka tracks Alma standing at a distance, serving drinks to the guests. She notices him again and gets angry that he is following her. She asks him what he wants from her, but he declares that he only wants to talk. Suddenly, a few men surround him and tell him to get out of the club as he cannot talk to Alma. As they get out of the club, Boyka asks him when he can talk to Alma. The man gets harsh and says that he can never talk to her. He gets angry and beats every man. Zurab watches the fight and comes out of the club. He appreciates his fighting style and offers to fight for the club. But Boyka declares that he is not interested in the fight and only wants to talk to Alma. Zurab says that he owns the city, so Boyka will never be able to talk to her. Hearing that, he silently leaves the club. The next day, Boyka hits the guard and gets inside the community center to meet Alma. She gets so happy to hear that Boyka met her husband. But she gets so angry when he shares that he was the one who killed him. She does not accept the money he gives and refuses any of his help to pay the debt that she and Victor took from Zurab to build this center for kids. On the other hand, Zurab sees his fighter and tells his manager that he wants a better fighter. At the same time, Boyka enters and asks Zurab how much debt Alma has to pay, as he is ready to pay all her debt. Zurab and Boyka make a deal that Boyka will fight for him to finish Alma's debt. They decide that Boyka will win 3 fights to end the debt. They decide each fight on alternative days. Boyka is surprised that Zurab knows who he is. Then Boyka tells his manager to arrange another ticket after a week. The manager warns him, but he does not listen. Outside the club, Alma refuses to accept his help. She angrily tells him that she does not want him to fight or pay her debt. But Boyka declares that he has a burden on his conscience. He wants to hear her for his peace. He goes to the club for practice. A local fighter restricts him from using his punching bag. Boyka throws him down in a single punch. That night, Boyka gets in the ring for the first of 3 fights. The other fighter is not even nearly as good as Boyka. Alma initially neglects him, but when Boyka keeps attacking the man furiously, it gets her attention. Boyka soon wins the fight by throwing the fighter, but he does not punch him in the face when he could. He intends to win, and he does not want to kill the fighter. After his win, Zurab sends Alma to serve Boyka a drink. He asks her about any training place, so she allows him to do his training in her center. The next day, he begins training furiously while the kids in the center keep watching with so much interest. Boyka watches her working in the center. The next fight begins, and he is surprised that he has to fight 2 fighters at the same time. Alma serves the drink and watches the fight as well. Boyka stops the dual attackers with the speed of light. He keeps punching them in the body and face. During the fight, he gets badly hit, but after watching Alma, he once again gets the courage to fight. This time, he comes back more furious and throws both brothers one by one. Zurab tells his best fighter that Boyka is undefeatable. The referee declares Boyka's win, but so many attacks hurt his body. Zurab invites a police officer and bribes him to bring Koshmer from jail for the final fight. Then he says that, after the fight, he will help him arrest the most wanted prisoner, Boyka. That night, Alma prepares an ointment for Boyka as his body is hurt. She applies the herbal ointment when Boyka cannot do it himself. Boyka tells her to leave the city as this way. She will quickly get rid of Zurab, but Alma tells him that she cannot leave the center as it is their dream to give homeless kids a good life. On the other hand, Zurab gets the details about the relationship between Alma and Boyka. After knowing that there is nothing between them, he goes to Alma and tries to touch her inappropriately. He provokes her that Boyka deliberately killed her husband. But Alma refuses to listen and tells Zurab to get out. That day, the manager tells Boyka that people are too excited for the fight, so he must get the bus at 9:30 at night. As he returns to his room, he sees Alma waiting for him. She wants to know what happened the day his husband died. Boyka shares that he committed many crimes and served a lot of time in jail. Then, he left that life and began fighting the legal fights. The day he fights Victor, he forgets that he is fighting against a man. He only remembered the goal of getting into an arena in Europe. He kept saying sorry, but Alma walked out of his room. That night, Boyka gets in the ring for the final fight. Zarab's best fighter gets in the ring. It looks from Boyka's style that he is tired. The fighter threw him down many times. But then he looked at Alma and began punching the fighter again until the referee declared that Boyka had won. He comes into the dressing room at 9:30 and he has to reach the bus stop. But Zarab says that he has to fight his champion to clear Alma's debt. At the same time, police vans stop outside. They have brought Koshmer to fight against Boyka. While Boyka's only chance to reach Europe is through another bus at 10. They unchain Koshmer, and he gets in the ring with Boyka. In the initial fight, Koshmer does not move a bit when Boyka kicks or punches him. Then he throws Boyka on the floor. Boyka watches the laughing Zarab and Alma's embarrassed face and gets up again. He begins fighting with Koshmer so furiously. He hits him in the chest many times and ultimately throws him out of the ring. Watching that Boyka has won the final round, Zarab sends his men to hit Boyka with bats while he takes Alma to his room. Boyka hears Alma crying and gets up. He hits the men surrounding him. While a few guards shoot him too, he gets bullets in his chest and arm, but then he gets a gun from a man and kills guards attacking him. On the other hand, Zarab uses Alma as a human shield and gets out of the club. He asks Boyka to throw the gun. He throws the gun, but even then, Zarab does not leave Alma, so Boyka kicks Zarab and grabs his neck. He presses it until Zarab dies. Boyka's body is heavily bleeding, and Alma asks him to go to the doctor, but Boyka wants to know if she forgave him. In the meantime, police arrive. They arrest him. After 6 months, Alma comes to the jail to meet Boyka. She shows the kids paintings about him and tells him that she forgave him. She appreciates how he sacrificed his priorities to buy her freedom. Boyka becomes a fighter in jail. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching.